You see? It was the perfect setup.
I just feel like that may be a bit too risque. And welcome to the Down in Front Podcast, the official podcast of downinfrontpodcast.com. My name is Warren, and I will be your host this evening. And tonight, we are going to give you a full review of Velvet Buzzsaw, one of the newest films on Netflix right now, kind of horror genre. What we do here on the Down in Front Podcast is that we review movies, TV shows, video games, all a bunch of everything, while having our favorite beverage, usually alcoholic or not, you never know, and just kind of chat about some stuff. So we're going to do a bit of a round table, one of those tables that spins. And I want to toss it over to the mouth of the South, Mr. Brylan. Brylan, what's going on, man? What you sipping on tonight, and what else have you been watching?
Hello, good evening, everybody. I am doing well tonight. What I'm sipping on right now is I use the Mocha very scientific choose a wine by its label test. And I picked out this California red blend called Intrinsic. There's the label right there. You can't see it because we're an audio podcast, but the neat thing about this winery is they actually partner with a street artist named Zymer to create this label. So you see how very decorative and modern that is. So it looks pretty cool. But it's a blend of 51% Malbec and 49% Cabernet Franc. And it actually tastes really good. I'm liking it so far.
Nice.
Notes of wine.
Ooh. Heavy notes?
Yes. What I've been watching recently, it's been tough for me to watch some stuff. But I have started watching the new season of The Grand Tour. I'm loving it as always. And then their second and third episodes, they went to Colombia, to Cartagena specifically. And now I think I know where I want to go on my next vacation because that city looks beautiful. But it's a lot of fun. It's always good to see those guys showcase like new cars, but also talk about like car love and just appreciation of cars in general. I always appreciate, but I also like their funny stint they add to everything. And that is going on right now, and it's on Amazon Prime.
Nice. I know Guillermo was talking about that show. I never seen it, but I heard it's pretty good. So
yep.
It's always great to see your face, and it's always great to kind of have you. I'm going to toss it over to my best friend. He's been traveling a lot, but we still miss him dearly. Mr. Mocha, what's going on, man? What you sipping on tonight, and what else have you been watching?
What is up, everybody? Your boy is back finally after ravenous demand from our audience member. I'm back in town. Really excited to be back in the show. I've been traveling, as you mentioned. I just took a little road trip from Seattle to Denver. And while on that tour, I was exposed to a lot of the great culture of the mountains and plains of the United States. And most importantly, one of our great national animals, the bison. And so tonight, I made a commitment to myself for 2019. I'm gonna cut back on the beer. I'm gonna be a bourbon boy from now on. And tonight's bourbon is Buffalo Trace. As you can see, it is a Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey brewed with buffalo. And I don't really know anything about bourbon yet. Like I mentioned, this is like my onset into being a bourbon boy. So as far as I'm aware, it's really good. But I could be wrong. I don't know yet. I don't have the knowledge base. But we'll see with future bourbons how that goes. As for what I've been watching, it's been really hard to watch shows while I've been on the road. But I did recently finish up an anime that I had started, which was new to Netflix, called what was it called? Sirius the Jaeger. And this was a 12 episode anime produced by Netflix. that was basically about a group of multinational vampire hunters. So like there was one guy from Ireland, one guy from England, one person from Spain, et cetera, et cetera. And the show just follows this group as they track down these vampires. It has a story to it, but the story was actually super cliche, and there was nothing in it that was really new or unique. But it was really well animated and pretty well voiced. So I enjoyed the experience well enough. Not something to go rushing out of your seat to watch if you're an anime fan, but if you've got time to kill and just want something to play in the background, Sirius the Jaeger is not a bad choice.
Yeah, I mean, I know the animation itself, the animation quality now goes a long way. There's a lot of shows out there that have a really good like storyline, but the animation is so poor that it's kind of tough to get into it. So I think that's pretty cool that at least animated and that animation quality is that high for you to enjoy it at least.
Yeah, I mean, Netflix is making such a big push into like all different sorts of genres, but especially anime. So one of the nice things is that these production companies get fed a bunch of money by Netflix, and so when they come out with these 8 to 12 episode long seasons, they're usually pretty well animated if they're a Netflix original. So that's one thing to be grateful for.
Nice. Well, it's great to have you back on. We love having your input, and excited for your thoughts for this movie. I'm gonna toss it over to the slasher himself. This man is great, Mr. Blewett. What's going on, man? What you been sipping on tonight? And where were you these last few days? Where'd you go?
I went down south to Atlanta.
That's racist.
What?
No, it's not.
It's factual.
What's racist, which the audience can't see, is that Blewett is in blackface right now.
Hey, come on. I got to run for Senate later. Or governor of Virginia.
You know what? Good. You can be any of
You'll
them.
still get elected, man. It's okay.
How's it going, guys? I weirdly enough, I watched stuff because I wasn't at home and didn't have my usual toys of distraction. I was down in Atlanta for the Superb Owl, I believe it's called, where I got to not see Sweet Victory, and instead I got to see the back of Adam Levine's. I was at the Super Bowl, is what I'm trying to say, but I was behind the halftime show. So when Adam Levine was blasting his nips, I didn't see any of that.
And there's a lot of overweight moms out there who would have killed to see the back of Adam Levine's greasy body.
Yeah, and I am one of them. And so, but it's funny because I watched the Fire Festival documentary, which weirdly enough, I watched, or I was keeping tabs on it when it was happening, just because like Blink-182 was involved, and I kind of just follow everything that they do for all of everything. And whenever their name is attached to a project, I kind of pay attention. So it was kind of interesting to see the behind the scenes and the actual footage of something that I was following a year ago. Need to see the Hulu piece. Apparently, to really understand it, you got to see both of them. Tonight, though, I'm classing it up because I had myself a long weekend with a lot of Southern food, and I'm drinking water because my liver and kidneys and stomach and all that stuff need a break.
That's smart.
Sounds like
do you
Lamb
count?
treated you right?
Yeah.
Do you count Chick-fil-A being a Southern food?
I'm conflicted on Chick-fil-A. It's amazing, but I don't know if it's the best representation the South wants to offer as like a token to everyone else.
I mean, anything of that is better than Florida, and the South definitely do not want to be represented by anything in Florida. So there you go.
Not even Publix? We'll take a Publix sponsorship.
Is that Florida or is that? Man, I love Publix too.
I thought Publix was Georgia, but I don't know.
I thought Publix was Georgia too, but
we want to be represented by Winn-Dixie.
That
Are they
sounds
still in
racist.
business?
Probably.
No, no, that is a legit grocery store. I'm sure you knew that.
Yeah.
Well, Shredder, it's always great to have you and great to see your beautiful, beautiful face. My name is Warren. Sadly, I don't have a nickname, but I am currently sipping on some Snapple peach tea and vodka. It's quite delicious. Nothing crazy. And I've been watching a bunch of stuff, as always, but the two things I do want to focus on was Escape for Dannemora. Have you guys heard of the show? Have you seen anything about it?
I've heard of it. I haven't watched it.
I think I think all of you would definitely kind of enjoy the show. I think we probably kind of caught wind of it with watching it with Emma for when Courtney No, not Courtney Cox. Patricia Arquette. There we go. When Patricia Arquette, I think she won a Golden Globe for it. So the show's absolutely great. I mean, Benicio del Toro's in it, Paul Dano's in it, and it's only 7 episodes, so it's like a mini series. So if you get a chance to kind of watch it, definitely check that out. And I've also been watching True Detective. I know Brylan has been watching it. I know a bunch of people kind of talk about it. I'm not going to give any spoilers, of course, because I definitely want to make sure we have a chance to discuss that on the show. But I am definitely saying that is much better than season 2. So even if season 2 kind of turned you off entirely, like it, don't even worry about it. Just completely forget about it. Brush off, watch episode 1 of season 3, and I think you'll definitely kind of at least enjoy where they're going with it. And then I went back and watched episode 1 of season 2, and I was very confused of what was happening. So definitely go check that out. True Detective was on HBO. Escape for Dannemora, I think that may be Showtime, but I'm actually not sure where that show is. We've been watching it on demand, so I'm not sure. So that was definitely pretty cool. So as we normally would do, one of my favorite sort of segments of this section, we're going to give some dedications, some shout outs, and send a sip. So Mr. Mouth of the South, who are you dedicating your sip to tonight?
I'm going to raise my glass and send a sip out to Respawn Entertainment. They are a video game company that actually, they were the original ones that developed Call of Duty Modern Warfare. But also, they did something pretty neat this past week on Monday. They announced that they were announcing a new video game on that day, but also the same day they actually launched it for free, which is called Apex Legends, which is a new battle royale game, but it's actually got a nice mix of elements from like Overwatch, but also Fortnite and PUBG all mixed together, so it feels really good. They also make the Titanfall game, which has probably some of the best traversal and control to a first-person shooter, so it definitely translates really well into this new game they have, and I'm enjoying the hell of it. So thank you, Respawn, for the wonderful surprise. That was absolutely free, so thank you.
Hey, that's great. I really haven't seen a lot of companies do that. What platform are you playing on?
I'm playing on PC, but it's also on PlayStation 4 and Xbox.
Nice. Kudos and shout outs to you, Respawn Entertainment. Mocha, who are you dedicating your delicious sip to tonight?
I'm sending a nice savory sip to Ariel from the Wing Coop Brewery in Denver, Colorado. So I spent the last couple of days in Denver, and I went over to that brewery, and she was the manager there and was really awesome with her customer service. I did a beer tasting, and she was like super like knowledgeable and made sure that I got everything I wanted to try, and even introduced me to the new stout that they have there, which is a Rocky Mountain Oyster Stout. I think, I don't know if everyone here in this room knows what that means.
I've had it,
but
Great Divide, right? Yeah.
No, not Great Divide. This was at Wynkoop, actually.
Oh, okay.
Not too far from Great Divide.
I had Great Divide.
No, they did not do that.
So for those of you listening who don't know, a Rocky Mountain oyster is actually just a testicle of a bull. And this particular stout was brewed with bull testicles. And in fact, the description guaranteed 3 balls a barrel. But that being said, I tried it. And let me tell you, the initial taste was actually a solid stout. But man, that aftertaste was foul. It tasted like what I can only imagine it was. But even so, shout out to Ariel. She was great. I now have a story coming out of that, and I can say that I have officially drank balls.
So that's an absurd joke about balls.
Yeah, I was going to say, we don't want to impact that here. Mocha, it's funny. So I was out in Colorado a couple of years ago. We were at this brewery called Great Divide, and they make the same thing. I think it was a lager, not a stout, though.
A little lighter.
Yeah, so we were all going around, buying like different rounds and stuff, and some buddies were like, "Oh, do you want anything?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'll have something." And as soon as they left, I'm like, "Yeah, I'm getting the ball beer." Yeah, and it's like they come back, it's like one of those like kind of half smiles, like they're trying to like contain it. It's just like, dude, you got me the ball beer, just give it to me, I'll drink it, I don't care. In lager form, wasn't half bad. Was not half. I don't know, maybe the grade of balls that they're using to like use
Could be.
I don't know. Maybe they're using 1 ball per barrel instead of 3. But like, it was kind of like your normal lager with a little bit of extra kick on the back end.
Yeah. Shout out to that one bull who was at the end of the line when they were making that all those barrels. They're like, well, we got 3. You got 1 left. I guess you're good to go, buddy.
Well, I am going to be dedicating my sip to the only commercial I thought that was actually really good was the Game of Thrones teaser commercial. Did you guys see that with the Bud Knight apparently and the jousting?
Spoiler alert! I didn't see it.
Shut up. I think it was absolutely hilarious. You didn't. Well, I mean, whatever.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. YouTube it. It was absolutely hilarious because they basically redid. I'm going to butcher these names, but they basically redid the scene from Game of Thrones when the Mountain fought the Viper. When he crushed his eyes in with his sockets, which is hilarious. So they kind of redid that one in the actual commercial. I'll see if we can try to link it in the show notes, but I died laughing watching that. So shout out to, I'm glad at least some of the Super Bowl commercials are good.
Yeah. The only ones I saw were the Michael Bublé one and some commercials that came out from this comic book company called Marvel. They released they had some Super Bowl commercials.
Of course they were.
I only watched the Captain Marvel one, but my God, am I amped for that movie.
And the Endgame one, honestly, I wish I didn't watch the Captain Marvel one. The Endgame one is awesome. The marketing for Endgame is freaking perfect so far. I know nothing about the movie and love it.
Yeah, I can do the same thing without watching any of that. Shredder, who are you dedicating your sips to tonight?
Does it need to be said? The frickin' Patriots. Let's go, Pats. 6 Super Bowls. Let's do it. Let's get it done. It did get done. Let's get another one. This is day 2 of the next season. We're already behind schedule. The Bills The Bills had 4 months to prepare for the 2019 season.
Super excited.
I have been strategically avoiding all the group chats that are filled with my Boston friends over the past few days. And yet, I've been cornered by Blewett in both voice and face to hear about Tom Brady's victory.
Arrives.
Yeah. Blewett, what are Tom Brady's lips like?
Wonderful.
All those mouth kisses, bro. My goodness.
For an extra second or two.
It's still so creepy. It's just so creepy. I don't get it.
He does a Brazilian way of greeting someone hello. I don't know.
No, that was a goodbye kiss.
Oh, you need to see his hello kiss.
Oh, I know his hello kiss.
So I'm excited for that. We are going to be talking about Velvet Buzzsaw, and we have hit our spoiler section. So if you have not seen Velvet Buzzsaw, it's less than 2 hours. The movie's on Netflix. I think it's pretty entertaining, at least for right now. It's a bit of a dry season for movies up until I think maybe this weekend or next. Definitely go check it out. It's on Netflix. Should be a fairly kind of easy watch. So with that, we'll take a break, and we'll see you soon for a full spoiler edition.
That's the sound of a buzzsaw. And we are back, and we are the Down in Front podcast. You have entered our spoiler section. So if you have not seen Velvet Buzzsaw, we will be talking about spoilers. We will be ruining the movie. So definitely go check it out. Go to Netflix, check it out, and then come on back and pick up where you left off. We pick it up couple different sections. So here we're going to talk about the actings and characters, and then we're going to move over to talking about the plot and the story to give you a bit of a kind of conclusion. So I'm actually going to go and toss it on over to Brylan. Says, Brylan, talk to me about the acting and characters of Velvet Buzzsaw.
Yeah, so just trying to figure out how I want to talk about this movie. I would say to start off, talk about Jake Gyllenhaal. It's definitely a different role than I've seen Gyllenhaal in before. He's not playing like a traditional love interest or anything like that. But he does a very good Crispin Glover impersonation in this character, like even to the same haircut as Crispin Glover. And his character, Morph Vanderwalt, amazing name for that character.
Oh my gosh.
I guess he's kind of the audience surrogate for just like journeying through this crazy world. Because he gets the most screen time, but also he's the one that makes the most sense as an art critic that can make or break anybody's show with just writing about the words. But also we find times where his motivations and everything just don't make sense at all. Like, why does he want to write a book about this dead artist paintings that he found and unveil the history? It just is very empty and just shallow when it comes to his character and a lot of characters in this movie. So I thought he did a solid job with what was given, but it wasn't really much he had to go off of. I would say just one other character that I thought kind of stood out was Natalia Dyer. She played this like very precocious young office assistant that is kind of like par for the course for the type of character she plays. And I just thought it was very amusing, like from time to time, just some nice situational comedy that the next person that hires her is the next person to die. So it could have been neat if they actually like kind of tied it in if she had something to do with the dead artist paintings. But it was still just a nice little chuckle to see, like she gets hired and then the next day her boss dies and she has to deal with that. So that was kind of amusing.
I thought it was kind of weird. I felt like they could have given her more to do. At least from, the only other thing I've seen her in is Stranger Things. And I think we talked about that for a little bit. And she at least can show some acting chops. This was as if you are literally taking a role that you're not really doing anything in it. I guess just kind of filling out her resume, but it's kind of a bummer. It felt like she was kind of a waste, especially they had so many good actor and actresses in this movie. They didn't really give her too much to do.
I would say that she wasn't a waste because the role of her character in the film was to be a easy to recognize foil for all of the shittiness and shallowness of the art community that was around her. She was from Middle America and just arrived in LA to like follow her dreams, and her innocence gets trampled on repeatedly throughout the movie. So I think the fact that she was kind of to the side was just to emphasize the fact that you have to be cutthroat and you have to not care about anybody else in order to do anything worthwhile in this town.
Yeah, I mean, she actually has an arc, where she starts off as like the young hopeful, goes through the whole cutthroat, and the movie ends with her leaving the city. The city beat it out of her.
She tries to be bad too, like in the middle. Like she tries, barely works
like
for her.
Selling secrets and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like most of the other characters don't live long enough to like change. They mostly die before they can atone for their sins.
Yeah. The only other character I wanted to mention about anything was John Malkovich. It was good to see him in another movie, but also it was kind of weird. It seemed like he was kind of persuaded onto the set, and they were actually did this movie as an intervention for John Malkovich for him to go seek care because he just looked disheveled and bored the whole time. And he has just like this one scene with Rene Russo, and after that he's gone. So
she literally sends him away, and I'm like, man, this would be weird if this is the last time we see him in the movie.
Yeah, so I was wondering. Yeah, and I was wondering, like, all right, what was the point of having him in the movie in the first place? I mean, just showing like a true artist versus people that want to say they know art.
I mean, I like them at least, showing up in another big Netflix movie. I mean, the last movie I saw him in was Bird Box, and he had a lot to do in that movie, and it's as if he was having fun. But yeah, I can't agree with you more, though. It was just weird that they took this genius that's supposed to be an artist as a genius and didn't really give him anything to do except get back to being drinking and kind of be of an asshole sometimes. So it's kind of odd.
Yeah,
I don't know. I feel like he was kind of the control element. Like of all the characters, every single person in that movie considered themselves an artist, but he was the only one that was just being a quote unquote true artist. He is like lauded and like surrounded by praise for his works, but is internally suffering deeply from the sorrow of disconnecting from alcohol, which has resulted in him not being able to create anything new over a year. And I think that for him, at least, it's another one of those examples of something to reflect on as we watch everybody else go about their business. Because, he follows his art. When they give him the idea of you need to go and rediscover yourself, he just leaves. He doesn't ask any questions about money. He never gets involved in the situation with Deese. He just follows his art. And as a result, is completely safe from the situation at hand.
But I saw also, though, what do you think of the other artists that we sort of get introduced to and then he kind of escapes it, played by David Deegs? Ramesh, is it?
Darmish?
Darmish? Yeah.
Darmish, yeah.
He's interesting. I think his character was just there to be a point of conflict later on for Jake Gyllenhaal and the female lead whose name escapes me right now.
Josephina,
yeah. I don't know, because he wasn't really caught up in the whole D situation. He appreciated the art. He respected it. He saw something in it. And that also kind of drove him away. But I really don't know in that situation. I think he was just kind of there just to fuel that conflict in Act 2.
Yeah, I agree with Mocha. I also think that John Malkovich was like criminally underused. The dude can play that like crazy LA stereotype so unbelievably well, and it would have been kind of nice to see a more unhinged version of that.
Yeah, I was wondering because between this and Bird Box, he was almost the exact same character, except one of them was drinking and one of them wasn't. But his delivery of the lines, his presence on screen was almost exactly the same. And I don't know. I feel like I had this as a thought to talk about later on, but either Netflix, as they continue to draw more big names for their movies, needs to work really hard toward giving really good roles to these big name movie like big name movie stars, or the other way around. Maybe these movie stars are seeing Netflix as just a way to make a quick buck and remain super relevant. I don't know, but my interpretation of Malkovich was he was solid in both movies, but he wasn't anything but himself, speaking calmly in both.
Yeah, it was kind of like there wasn't the Silence of the Lambs. It wasn't like a 15-minute stretch where he was utterly brilliant and that's all you remember. He's kind of an afterthought on most of the film. Like, if anything, you just remember him from that last scene, and he doesn't have any lines. It's basically just like this weird dancing, shot on the beach, which is super Malkovich, but, not super memorable. That's the actual word.
There's not much more I wanted to talk about the characters. I'll open it up to y'all. I did find like the rest of the characters, none of them were really interesting, and they're all just very superficial and just empty and despicable. And so I just found it not really enjoyable to watch these characters interact.
That's pretty interesting, because I actually had a lot of fun with these characters. Partly because they're despicable, and aside from Warren, I try to surround myself by people who are the opposite of that. But these characters, I thought they were all really just like fun to watch and interesting. Their dialogue wasn't super inspired, but it was always pretty snappy and felt very natural and flowy. I think a lot of the camera work helped with making me love the characters' dialogue more, because there were so many scenes where the camera would swing really smoothly between person to person, and having like a really quick back and forth repartee of words. And then one would walk away and start speaking towards someone in the distance, and the camera would just kind of swing and follow them, and then you'd be in a new scene. There's a lot of dialogue and a lot of scene layouts that felt like this was a stage play. And I actually really dug that about it. Something about it added to the theme of art and performance. And it also kind of layered on with the fact that every single one of these people in the movie were being false versions of themselves every time you see them talk to somebody else. So I actually I really enjoyed these characters.
I agree with you, Mocha. It was weird. It's like they didn't try and fake a one-shot scene, like they had with Birdman from a couple of years ago, and all these other, one-shots. But like they almost laid it out like it was supposed to be that. you could tell what the cut was, and they didn't try and hide the cut. But it also had that elegant flow, especially the art gallery scenes, where all the characters were interacting with each other and bouncing from person to person. It was a very unique way of getting an exposition dump because you learned what you needed to learn, but not in a forced way where it was cutting back and forth between different characters.
Yeah, I fully agree. There was something really special about the camera work in this movie for me. And it wasn't even like groundbreaking. It just worked really well and reinforced, like I mentioned before, that feeling that it was almost a stage production. Aside from the characters as a whole, I thought Jake Gyllenhaal was fantastic in this movie. I'm a Jake Gyllenhaal fan. I think he's a pretty good actor who's gotten better at his craft like over the years. But his character, what's his name? Grand Moff Tarkin. What's his name in this movie?
Morph Vandersnatch or something.
Yeah, Morph Vandersnatch. So he
go with that.
Like his character was super charming and just really fun, and it didn't feel super forced. He seemed really, really natural and in his element. And yeah, I don't know. I just really liked what he brought to the role.
I just wasn't entirely sure from exactly what his role. It just didn't make too much sense to me. Like, I liked at least what he was trying to do in his role, but some of the scenes just felt like it was just so like unbalanced, and he just felt like he was kind of overacting, and it kind of turned. I think one of you guys at least was kind of talking about some of the horror tropes, but some of his roles and lines were just so like dramatic and like over the top. I wasn't sure why he was saying it in this movie. Should have been a little bit more muted, a little bit more realistic to enjoy it.
I love that. That's exactly how those people talk. Like,
I was gonna say, have you ever met a bisexual art critic from LA?
Yeah, no, seriously. Yeah, I guess I didn't mean that as those people. What do you mean those people? What do you mean those people?
Jesus.
But no, seriously, like I was gonna comment on this earlier. The emptiness of the characters was perfect for me. Here's a bunch of vapid, self-absorbed narcissists that are living in their own little bubble. Of course they're not real human beings. Like, of course everything they say you immediately disconnect from because that's what the characters are supposed to be.
It's all performance all the time for all of them.
Right. And it comes through where I wouldn't call it lazy script writing or lazy acting, where it's actually impressive that they are so fake and unbelievable. But also, if you spend any time in any one of these big cities in any sort of art collective, these people are rampant, and they float to the top like they do in this movie, where like the more self-absorbed, narcissistic you are, the more people listen to you,
or the more you can actually just tune other people out.
It's an art form in and of itself.
It's a two-way street on that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think that was the whole thing that just didn't really connect with me, was just how empty the characters were, that it felt like the characters were created by someone who didn't understand the art world at all. And I don't think it's about, like, I mean, yeah, you can definitely mock and like do a parody of that art world, but I think there's even movies that even do that better than this, where it felt like it was someone, like whoever wrote this didn't do their was Dan Gilroy that wrote this, didn't really do his work on why this would be funny, and so it never really feels like it hits.
Was it supposed to be funny though? I thought it was just supposed to be sad.
No, it's technically a satire. You're supposed to laugh.
Satire.
You're supposed
to. I mean, no. So, all right, it was
definitely goofy. Yeah, I mean, there is a goofy part to it. It's just a goofiness. It wasn't earned.
Bryland, you're not supposed to connect with the characters because they're like It's Always Sunny characters. Where like you know a lot of those. Yeah, you know a lot of those idiots, like kind of in your own life, and then that's just cranked up to 1,000. First of all, I go back to my previous statement.
Country Mac is cool, and
Country Mac's always cool, obviously.
Schlitz is not.
Yeah, but you gotta compare. It's more like a Dennis character. Oh my god, I can't believe we're doing It's Always Sunny breakdowns right now. No, but like, I think that they're supposed to feel very disconnected from the common audience because you're not that. On the flip side, I've met people that are kind of like that, that live in those types of communities, and that's how that crap goes. I don't get it. I'm with you on that, but like, it is.
I don't have a massive amount of friends who are deeply connected in the art world, but I can say anecdotally that someone who I spent a lot of time with who is in the art world is exactly as just obnoxious and self-absorbed and vapid, but not actually dumb, just being vapid for the sake of seeming like lofty and airy. I don't know. I'm sure there are decent artists out there. We're not on the Down in Front podcast tonight to just like shit over anybody who has an art degree.
Yeah.
But I do think that like the feeling that you feel, Brylan, and seems a little bit from you too, Warren, was intentional from the standpoint of like the writing and directing.
Yeah. Oh, 100%.
Or at least,
yeah. And I would say that's just only one part where it fails. I mean, I would also say another character that I think we should bring up and discuss is Deese. Even though he's dead, he is a big influence throughout this whole movie. And if this was supposed to be some type of parody that rolls into a horror movie, that it's very similar to like The Nun. They don't establish any rules for how the horror works or anything. And so it basically becomes like, oh, if it's Deese's spirit that is getting revenge on people that selfishly exploit art or are just bad artists. We don't know exactly why or what is happening. We just know people die after they see a Deese painting or own a Deese painting or have touched a Deese painting, because it comes to a point at the very end, there's not even a Deese painting around and he still has some influence over Rene Russo's tattoo. And you're like, okay, how the fuck did he do that? It makes for some cool set pieces and some cool kills, but it really doesn't kind of connect the two, from what I see, the two stories they have going on in this movie.
It definitely felt like I was getting some weird, really bad Saw movie tropes and some of these kind of kills, and it's just got to the point where it just like kind of got ridiculous, because at that point you knew exactly what was going to happen. It's just, okay, how are you going to die? We already know you're going to die by being introduced into this movie.
Yeah,
this is something that Destination for me, where it's like death finds you.
Yeah, good.
Sorry, Mocha.
No, it's all right. That was literally what I was gonna say. Like there was a part in this movie where when the first death happened, which was the art installer who was like really into describing to everybody that he was more than just an art installer, but also super weird and creepy. And no, it's not really explained why he's creepy.
But they recovered his AirPods.
They did important stuff. But he was the first one to die, and I was like, all right, cool. We're going to get to see some death. How's this going to happen? And then,
and his death kind of made sense.
And the painting inside the garage came to life and pulled him into the painting. And then I literally said out loud, I'm like, are they just going to Final Destination everybody? And sure enough, that's exactly what it is. It was just, like Boo had said, or maybe Brian said, it didn't establish any rules, and it didn't follow any of the rules that could vaguely be established.
I kind of like the monkey killing, because that was a Deese painting that actually killed him.
No, it's just the painting in the garage.
Really? It wasn't one of the paintings from the back of the
yeah.
The
no, because it was already hanging. Yeah.
Yeah, that was that was just generic.
Never mind.
You know how all these podunk gas stations have fine like old school paintings of monkeys and.
Of course.
No, I don't.
So I think one theme that I'm just kind of thinking about right now, so I'll spitball it at you guys, is that it's basically a path back to being a legitimate artist, where they could become so self-absorbed in making money, where they're quite literally just being pulled back into art. The monkeys grab him, put him in a painting. Later, Josephina gets basic. I don't know how to describe that. That was really cool, by the way.
Turned into street art.
Yeah,
that was a really cool, elaborate way to die.
Yeah. And then what's it called? He was hanging inside that art installation, kind of completing that attic. It was kind of like it was heavy-handed now that I think about it, but that's how he brought it back to Deese, where he was bringing yourself back to legitimate art.
Yeah, but then you have like I agree with all of those, including the sphere. The sphere one, the whole point of the aftermath of that was everyone thought she was part of the art exhibit. But then you have Morpheus, who's like the main character of the movie, and he just gets his neck snapped. Like
Morpheus? Sorry. That threw me off. I was like, what?
No, but he just gets cornered in a hallway and he gets his neck snapped, and there's like there's nothing there to connect it to it.
Well, it could be because the hobo itself, that was like one of the first art pieces that he said he loved, but then he didn't kind of understand it, and it destroyed that other guy's sort of whole museum. I thought that's what it was supposed to be for.
Yeah,
I thought he despised it.
Yeah, he didn't like it.
Yeah, he didn't like it. And what Blue was getting at was that everyone's death made them a part of art, which I think is a running theme for almost all of it. But again, this is an example of the movie just not following through with the few rules that just set up. There
was a bunch of... So you're right. Deese was definitely the weakest like character part, where there was like no... He kind of just did whatever. I would argue that it's not a huge part of the movie. Like, I think the primary part of the movie is like these people's antics through the whole thing, but that's another story. I think that there was a lot of characters that we didn't meet that we probably should have met in this film, though. Like the ex-boyfriend who they were talking about a couple times. Like,
yeah, that was weird.
It kind of got confusing when
you
they were...
see Ed once.
No, not Ed.
No.
He's talking about Josephina's ex-boyfriend.
So there was like a couple people that like they would talk about and reference several times, but then like you kind of didn't know if they were talking about one person we haven't met or another person we haven't met. I definitely was a little bit confused on that. Also, Netflix, I kind of feel bad, but your movies definitely get less of an attention span from me than a theater. Because sitting next to someone who paid money for a ticket, you can't be pulling your phone out. Whereas definitely, I was engaged in this film, but I did felt bad. I was just like, scroll.
Gotta give them a shout out though for their new cinematic logo in the beginning.
Yeah, that was cool.
That was
the
cool.
Netflix end that zooms into like the multicolored things.
Yeah. I didn't even see that.
Yeah.
Sorry, I spoiled it for you.
No, you're not.
Yeah, can we tell?
The other thing that I thought that was weird though, going off of that Blue, was the ex-boyfriend got drunk, got into a car, got into an accident, and then he was in a coma, and they just said that as if it was a line that like super blase and that was it. And I'm like, what? So not only did you bring this person up that we should have met, you now put him in a coma just by the writing of the movie was weird.
Yeah.
Well, saying stuff blasé, that was their tone of voice through the entire movie. You know, like that was consistent there. I will say this, it was a little confusing where they were talking about the boyfriend. They showed the sketch ball in the next scene, and then he crashed his car. I was like, wait, is he the boyfriend? And we're just kind of watching this, and is this how they're going to do? Is there like multiple, not time jumps, but like you get the backstory after things have been said?
Well, that was one interesting thing about this movie. Mm-hmm. It was the fact that I appreciated that they were so, what's what I'm looking for? Like so liberal with their usage of time in this movie. But it was at a lot of times, it was really, really difficult to track how much time has passed between each scene. Because I feel like this movie took place over like maybe 2 months. Like it was like a long, like it was a good amount of time with lots of different things happening. And they, not only do they never like actually tell you or give you any sort of indicators of that time jumping aside from the dialogue, but there were certain moments where they even just gave used really cool camera tricks to highlight it. Like for instance, there was one scene that I remember so clearly, except I can't give you the exact details behind it, but one person was leaving in a car or turning onto a road to go to someone's house. And when the camera changed, it was a match on action to another car turning into a driveway, but it was a different character to meet with a different person some days later. And it was just so smooth that like I love matches where there's a match on action or a match on sound. I was like really impressed by it, but at the same time, it was unnecessarily confusing to have to then think, okay, they already said that she was going to meet with this person in a few days, so there must have been a time jump in that fraction of a second where they like Mr. Wizarded out the two cars.
Yeah, or they start this movie in Miami and then they jump to Los Angeles, but they never tell you that they jumped to Los Angeles, and everything pretty much looks the same. So you don't really figure it out until someone mentions it like halfway through the movie.
And there's an argument to be made there that this is supposed to be another highlighting feature of the fact that these characters are so self-absorbed that they would never even spend time in a place that wasn't perfectly suited for them. So even for them, it doesn't matter whether it's Miami or LA because it's all just their same like stupid little art world.
And the other thing is, good. I was going to say there's a common criticism from people that, especially Florida, but I imagine it's somewhat in California too, that because there's no seasons there, it doesn't feel like time passes. Like you literally just like if every day is 70 degrees and sunny or hurricaning or earthquaking, I guess, to give access to both coasts, it just feels like there's no progression. You sit in this like one place and the world just kind of revolves around you.
So I've definitely heard that for LA because allegedly LA is 70 degrees every day of the year. Definitely not the case for Florida. I'm sure Warren can attest to this. We both live there and there are definitely changes in temperature while you're there. And you know this because all of the native Floridians will put on their beanies and their mittens when it's 55 degrees out. So
it's funny I've heard that only from Florida people, not from the LA people.
Really?
Yeah.
That's bizarre.
Yeah, dude.
I've never met an LA person that didn't go out of the way to tell me that it was 70 degrees there all year round.
Oh yeah, no. But the feeling of like you just feel like nothing changes.
Oh, I see.
Like there's no progression or growth because you wake up, do the same thing. Like at least in New England where it's just hell for 12 months, except for like 3 days in like early October, and then like 3 days in April, where it's like this is perfect, and then it just all goes to hell. But yeah, honestly, their location choices kind of fit that mold of just time sits still.
Okay. I dig it.
Anything else anybody wants to add before we talk about the plot? And I'm really, really interested to talk about the story with you guys.
Yeah, a couple things. Well, two really. I thought that the makeup on Gyllenhaal's eyes was incredible as he's slowly going crazy. Like you see like the like red and blacks kind of appear on it. And also on Gyllenhaal, I think I haven't said this yet, but we could see the Marvel training take into place. There's no reason for him to be that shredded, but he's going to have to do one shirtless scene as Mysterio, and he's got to have that sort of body. The other thing is that Toni Collette is a national treasure. I think we I learned this
Australian national treasure.
No, but it's the world,
Or world.
We haven't built the wall yet.
The world is a nation.
Hey, Blue, that's 2 wall jokes you've made tonight, so I'm just letting you know.
I know.
All right.
God, I hate that guy. What was I gonna say? Toni Collette, national treasure, though. Learned about that in Heritage, and she really expanded on it. Like her delivery is just so on point. It's so snide. Like everything is just dripped in sarcasm. Except serious somehow.
Yeah. I think she's probably the one character that kind of understood what movie she was in.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, that's because she's been in this type of movie a lot.
Yeah.
She was actually in Krampus. I didn't realize why she was in that movie.
Fun fact about Toni Collette. 20 years ago, 1998, excuse me, she was in a movie called Velvet Goldmine.
Another sex toy.
Nice.
Also, entirely separately, she was also in Triple X: The Return of Xander Cage.
Oh, why? What are you doing?
Because she needed money. Why else would you do that?
Yeah, I was like, I mean, I guess, but those movies are just so terrible.
They probably thought it was going to be the next Fast and Furious. They're like,
I was talking about Krampus. You're talking about what? Which?
Triple X.
Triple X.
I know. Well, did Vin Diesel come back, or was the one when he came back?
There's only been 2.
Well, it's called The Return of Xander Cage, so I assume
that was 3 of them.
Came back.
Did they make a sequel back in the day? This is irrelevant. Let's keep on going.
Okay, sorry.
State of the Union.
Let's.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, there was. Oh, my God.
There was 3, right? Okay.
Yep.
So let's talk about the plot and story of Velvet Buzzsaw. Bradley, what you got for me?
Yeah, so as mentioned before, this movie kind of has like 2 storylines going. And it's tough to watch just because the movie never really decides what type of story it wants to tell on its own. It's just like a myriad connection of different pieces put together that really don't make sense. And so I found it constantly going back and forth was this movie about an art critic and about his relationships within the art world and having a parody on that art world, and what those relationships lead to and what the consequences are? Or is this about an up-and-coming gallery manager that's looking for her big break and unleashes evil art onto the world? So either one of those stories, they really didn't do well with them, and I found that the movie just kind of suffered because they didn't really just stick to one of those stories and explore it further. I mean, you can have a parody of the art of the art world with the critics and the curators and everything, but give us like a little bit of inside baseball to it too. So kind of show us what are the motivations of an art curator or gallery manager, and besides just wanting to make money. I want to see what does it mean to be in that role, and also have a parody of that role too. Or also with the art critic, what is the power that he sways over them? We got some snarky one-liners from Jake Gyllenhaal, but nothing that really kind of ties into how he's actually influenced himself upon these other artists or gallery managers as well. So I just found that the story was just really lacking focus, and it essentially becomes like a non-story because of that lack of focus. The dialogue was just really too basic to kind of give you some that kind of twist of interest, interesting world I've never seen before to keep me interested in it. So I just fell off really quickly in this movie when watching it, that this was just not really a good movie to watch.
Mocha, what you got?
So for me, this movie is Netflix's Bad Times at the El Royale. And for anyone who's listening who hasn't heard our review of Bad Times, I'll save you the trouble of going back and listening to it, but you should just download it just for the sake of giving us that metric. But my big issue with Bad Times was that you had an amazing cast, a great ensemble of characters, and they really just did nothing with it. There was a lot of potential in the story, the setting, the people that were there, but they just didn't cross the finish line. And I feel this really strongly with this movie. The characters were entertaining enough, even if they weren't amazing. They were entertaining enough. The actors and actresses involved were all really good. And the actual concept, the initial concept of this story, I think was perfect. The idea of as Brian mentioned, an up-and-coming person within the art curation world taking advantage of the death of an old man in order to sell his paintings and move herself up the ladder. I think that's an amazing start for the story. If it were up to me, I would have completely removed the supernatural element from this movie. Yeah. Instead, have it be almost exactly the same movie. Have it be about the fact that almost like a Telltale Heart, where this art is driving all of these different people to such lengths of lying, depravity, cheating in order to profit off of it, and have these deaths or these murders be actual crimes of passion to advance each other's for each other to advance in the art world, and let that be almost like a thing in the background where it's these people are having these breakdowns because they're so obsessed with this chase for money and fame. Almost as if it's supernatural, but completely remove that supernatural element from it and just have it be about how easy it is to corrupt yourself in the search and when you're obsessed with greed. I think that the exact same movie otherwise would have been great without the supernatural elements. The supernatural element just added a bit of shtick to it that didn't really resonate with anything else that was going on in the movie.
Yeah, I mean, this should have been like more like Best in Show, but for art critics.
Honestly,
is there a lot of murder in Best in Show?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't think
there's
that's
no
how that
murder in
happens.
Best in Show.
It could have Mocha. It could have been Suicide too, where you could draw the characters up. Where I think they made reference to Rene Russo playing in a punk band and being a very good alternative artist. At that point, she's just really good at selling art, and that made her a lot more money than playing in a punk band does. And so you could see that like the tortured artist who only made art for themselves because that was the integrity of it. And then having that conflict of like, well, what am I doing with my life? If this was what I was put on earth to do, but I deviated away and I'm just, being superficial. And, they end up, you could almost keep the deaths the same, right? Like she sticks her arm, in there and gets it cut off. I mean, you could make it an allegory for, cutting your wrist or something, hanging. What was the other ones?
Neck breaking.
Snapping your neck.
That's just another day in LA, from what I've heard.
Yeah, but I agree with you, Blewett. Like you could keep most of the deaths similar, even change them up a bit. But I think that if the driving force in this movie was centralized around this art and how, almost like I mentioned before in the Telltale Heart sense, how everyone is being driven mad because of their own like unquenchable thirst for fame and success. And the lies upon lies layering, driving everybody into their own little personal hell. I thought that would have been a beautiful version of this movie. Without like all the corny like one lines about, oh, he'd kill for this painting, or this is to die for, and like the weird death scenes, like the monkeys pulling the guy into the painting, and like all this other all the other stuff that happened.
Yeah, that's fair. You could honestly even keep some of the supernatural stuff in there and just make it internalized as their mind. Like Haunting a Hill House did that, where there was a lot of that show, you didn't know if it was supernatural or if it was just depression and drugs. Where she had like the rope and it was given to her by the mom, but then the camera turns around and she's just tying it up herself. It's like you could have done something like that, but with you have to edit like 5 minutes out of this film.
I agree. Like the audience should have been left wondering the entire time if there was something supernatural going on or if this was just everybody's minds being pushed to the limit. And it should have ultimately been about their minds being pushed to the limit. But the audience should have had that mystery playing. It would have made it way more suspenseful, I think.
Yeah.
I love when we just rewrite movies in our reviews. It's quite beautiful. It is.
I mean, one thing about
Netflix.
One thing I did appreciate about this movie, though, is the set design and like the locations of it. I found like art galleries are really cool. Are actually a really cool place to put a murder, just because deaths look cool in an art gallery because of how stark you got that art galleries have to be in there, because their focus is showing the center point of this square frame that's on the wall, and they do want this nice clean interior for everything. And so I did like things like, I like the whole art idea behind the sphere, kind of like interactive, and that what you feel is kind of like whatever you want it to be. I thought that was a neat idea, and wondering how they would actually create something like that. And the murder along with it, seeing Tony Collette's arm get chopped off randomly, pretty cool. And just seeing all the blood around it, and just having that little bit about that that the people that came into the gallery when it first opened thought it was part of the art exhibit. I thought that was a neat little anecdote that they put in there, because you could definitely see that happen, especially of how absorbed people are in art. But I did like the murder scenes for the most part were actually very creative. Like when Josefina dies, it's not your traditional death that we've seen. I mean, it's more of like paint overtakes her and she becomes part of paint. So it was a very weird existential way of dying. But even like the monkeys, like kind of dragging the shithead into the painting. That's what I assumed they did, was they drug him into the painting, and that's how he died, because he went missing. No one heard from him anymore after that. But one other thing when it comes to design aspect that I think should never be done by anybody on the planet is no one should wear a short sleeve button down with a suit. That is totally illegal to do.
You're not avant-garde enough, apparently.
I guess not.
Brown, I want to double back really quick to one thing you were talking about when you referenced Toni Collette's death in the sphere. That was, so I mentioned before how there were a couple of moments in this movie that just seemed like super inspired and super brilliant. And the aftermath of that death scene was one of them, because you have this juxtaposition between Josefina, who is on the phone explaining the situation to Rodon. Raytheon. Anyway. Redora, there you go. It's like Fedora, but not. Anyway, so she's describing this on the phone to her, and she's clearly shaken and broken and describing like the depravity and the horror of her friend being dead on the ground, but everyone around them thinking that it was part of the art installation. And it's her in her room, and her room is dark, and it's a direct straight on shot. And then it switches to the art gallery, and it's a much more dynamic shot from like a 3/4 angle near the ceiling, and everything's white and bright. And you have this almost obscene comedy of little kids coming in and playing in the blood. And then it cuts back, and she's shaken, and she's like trembling with her voice, describing how horrible this is. And then it cuts back, and you see that the kids have walked around everywhere with the blood. So there's little footprints everywhere, and people are walking around seeing it. And it was just this kind of like really remarkable playback between like absolute sadness and despair and ridiculous, absurd comedy that was on both sides still horror. And I don't know, I just thought it was a really, really, really cool scene.
I agree with you. For the reasons you stated.
I think that's probably one of the only scenes that I did enjoy, though, Mocha. Yeah. Especially because I feel like that sphere, at first, because I thought this movie was kind of out there, because I thought that was just like this thing that people were just sticking their arms in. There wasn't like an arm socket for it. So I'm like, oh, this is just fantasy. Okay. But it looks like they changed it up. So I feel like that's like a piece of art that's probably somewhere, and that's probably kind of derived or kind of like inspired by that. But I did enjoy like, what did you say?
You've got the bean in Chicago.
Yeah, but nobody sticks their arm.
It shriveled up though, because it's -20 outside.
That was crazy. Yeah, so I definitely enjoyed that scene, especially from everything you just said about it. I just wish that there was more moments like that in the movie and less of what we got.
Yeah, I agree. Like overall, like I mentioned, it's just like my feelings toward Bad Times. There was just so much potential in what they were doing and how they were doing it, and they just didn't reach all the way for what they had.
At least with this movie, they didn't have like crazy Jesus character show up midway through that without warning and kind of control everyone. To me, at least that was better than Bad Times. They somewhat held true to the circumstance they set up ahead of time.
I mean, Bad Times kills off one of the best characters, John Hamm, for arguably no reason. So
yeah, let's not get into that movie, because I feel like that's gonna Force Awakens this podcast real quick.
Go ahead, Bullet.
Yeah, I got two major things. I'll start with the early one first, the quick one first. Music. I caught this in the last two, and I actually would love to go back and rewatch some of these scenes where they had when he was in the isolation chamber, the anechoic chamber, and then he had the voices. It really was a whale song exhibit, and they used the whale sound in the rest of the score, including the scene when he got murdered. The other scene that they used it for that I was picking up on was right before Rene Russo's, was it Rodera? Is that what we decided on?
Rodora.
Yeah.
Rodora. All right, we're renaming the character. Rhododendron. Before she was killed, there was like the whale sounds, and then before the last character to eat it, in the background of Dodecahedron's thing was like the is it koto or a sitar? I don't know which one it was. It was some sort of East Asian like instrument.
Erhu.
No, I know what the erhu is, and that wasn't it.
What was it? A didgeridoo?
No, I know what that one is too. But it was something from that area of the world, and you could hear some of the notes playing. In fact, she goes and like puts her hand on it, and you could hear that right before, I believe, the Josephina bought the farm. And then they did this really cool thing at the very end when they were selling the paintings. And this is why I want to go back and rewatch it, is because I think they seem to set up not necessarily a melody for each character's death, but a kind of tonal environment. And at the very end, when the guy was selling the paintings, the composer basically spun a piece that had like a bass frequency of whale sounds with like the stringed instrument playing the harmony over the top of it. And I would love to go back and see what was playing with the other people when they died, and see if that end piece was just a culmination of pretty much all of them in there. That's the short one. The long thing is this movie was essentially asking the question, what is art and how do people interact with it? You know, I think we were talking about this before, that there's a bunch of like people that we know that are super in the scene, that are super relatable, but this is where I would say it relates to all of us, is that all of us interact with different forms of art every single day. Some of us have no idea what we're listening to and don't understand if it is art or it isn't art. Some of us, like he was saying, he trashed an installation just because someone told him to do that. And the amount of times I've been like, oh yeah, I hate this band, just because it's like, I'm supposed to hate them. I mean, I'm still never going to listen to a Nickelback song, but they might have like a song I might enjoy if I actually sat down and like, you know, was feeling terrible about myself. But the point is that sometimes the situation around us that can corrode how we feel about certain pieces of artwork. I'm sorry, this could be music heavy because that's my thing. But it goes through, and we could draw that combination where like it ultimately is asking you to analyze what you're seeing, what you're listening to, what you're experiencing, and have you interact with it in a normal way. These characters were drawn to the extreme of like and you could say like, oh, this person's kind of an asshole because they didn't accept good art. But we as individuals do that every single day. And I think it's calling on us to recognize what we're doing and kind of maybe either recognize it and let it sit, or work to kind of understand it and to really enjoy things that are enjoyable to you. It also says that different people have different strokes. For one person, you might not understand it at all, but in the other person, you know, that might really speak to them, and to not really judge necessarily based on that.
You're right.
Sorry, that was the connecting point.
We all do have different strokes.
That's exactly what I got from that.
Look, I gotta be honest.
Don't check my Snapchat account.
There was one other thing I wanted to add about the plot that kind of infuriated me. That Morph Dingerdager, his whole journey with writing this book about Dees. You think it's going to be like this way of unveiling this mystery of who Dees is and kind of give you a reason why these things are happening. But we don't get that from Morph's like story at all. We actually get randomly a private investigator that pops up and talks to Rodan versus Godzilla and just lays it all out of who Dees was. And then she says, oh shit, because of financial reasons. Yeah, this guy's a psychopath, so if once this gets out to the public, his art's going to depreciate. So we got to sell this stuff off as soon as we can. Whereas everybody else just seems very like nonchalant and disconnected, because we find out that Dees is we get this big exposition dump that Dees is had a bad childhood and grew up in a psychiatric ward and all this other crazy stuff. But it never really feels like it gives you an understanding or a reason behind the supernatural parts of the murders happening. But also, it doesn't really inform on the character of Dees that much either.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, that's why I feel like, you know, this movie could have removed the supernatural element and literally have Dees just been the dead guy to start off this cavalcade of bad decisions by everyone involved. Because even as they like revealed more about him, like you said, Brian, it didn't give us anything. All it did was give a justification for why so much spooky stuff was happening. like, oh, okay, of course the paintings are haunted because he was abused as a child and became a murderer and painted with his own blood. But like, outside of justifying the supernatural element, nothing to move the story forward came out of anything about these.
Yeah.
So then, Brylan, if we got to move into our kind of final thoughts here, would you recommend this movie? If you do, what other movie would you think to tell people to watch before getting ready for this Velvet Buzzsaw?
I would not recommend watching this movie. I kind of got the same disappointed feeling like Mocha has, where this is kind of like a Bad Times at El Royale, where you got a lot of talent that just utterly goes wasted on a very weak and empty story. It's also kind of disappointing to see from Dan Gilroy, the creator of the writer and director of Nightcrawler, which was actually a fantastic movie, which actually talked about the integrity of being a journalist versus kind of forcing a story to create an impact. So Nightcrawler is amazing. So I'd definitely watch that if you want to see a good Dan Gilroy film. But when it comes to like just art critique and just like understanding a bit more, I mean, you could watch Beverly Hills Cop and get a better idea of like what art galleries are all about, or even watch the one episode of Marvelous Mrs. Maisel season 2 where they actually run into an artist.
Oh, that's a good one.
That's probably going to be 1 hour where you'll get a better understanding of how the art world works more than what this movie brings.
Mocha, what you got?
You know, there was just so much solid potential in this movie, in the concept, all of it, and so much of it was wasted on just cheeky puns and gory death scenes. It didn't follow any sort of internally decided rule set. It felt like a lot of this movie was just there to make sure that it slid into the horror category. And I feel like that wasn't necessary. I don't know anything about the source material, but I just feel like there was a lot of wasted potential in this movie. That being said, I did enjoy the characters. I did enjoy the acting. I did enjoy the first half of this movie immensely. But honestly, I feel like if Netflix is going to continue to draw so much star power for their movies, they need to start taking a really serious look at the projects they're working on and what sort of roles, dialogues, and experience they're offering these major actors. Because you got to do more when you have people like Jake Gyllenhaal and crap, I almost called him Gilbert Grape. What's his name? John Malkovich. There we go. Yeah, you got to give these guys more. There's like they can do more.
Yeah.
Shredder, what you got? Would you recommend?
Yeah, I'd recommend it. The horror theme was probably a little zany, but it was fine. I actually loved Gyllenhaal's performance in this. Like his mannerisms were just spot on for me. It was a weird character, and I fully embraced it. I would say this though, like we talked about it before, but these like bigger than life characters that are based in total and utter reality, go watch Spinal Tap. It's still the best movie in that sort of genre, where you see all these idiots bumbling around and you're like, that can't be true, until you're one of those idiots bumbling around getting lost going to stage or something. Yeah, but I'd recommend seeing this movie.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I also would recommend them see this movie because the last couple of reviews that we've done, this movie is better than Serenity and Replicas. So definitely got to give it up to that, especially being a bit of a dark ages in the theaters right now up until, I think, maybe this weekend or next weekend. And so why not? You know, it's under 2 hours. Definitely go check it out. I think they had a lot of stuff that was good about this movie that was interesting, definitely entertaining. And with that, we have been a Down in Front podcast. Thanks everybody for tuning in and hanging out with us tonight for our review of Velvet Buzzsaw. Brylan, where can people find more of your work on the interwebs?
You can find me wearing long sleeve button downs with my suits on Twitter at Brylan, BRILUND. You can also find me posting many movie and TV reviews at I am Brylan on the Instagram.
And Mocha Mike, where can we find more of your work on the interwebs?
Well, you can find me on Twitter posting live streams of myself painting violent yet undeniably sexy works of art at Mocha Mike LI as the Lord intended. Unfortunately, you cannot find me at Mocha Mike. The person who owns that is likely dead and also was probably left with no family or loved ones. And he won't give it back. So until then, I'm Mocha Mike, Li. However, you can still follow me on Instagram and Medium at Mocha Mike. You can see some previously written articles about movies that we talk about here, as well as some dope photos at those locations.
The Shredder, where can we find more of your work and what you got coming up?
Yeah, you can check us out most major platforms at My News Music or My News Band. Forget which is which, but we're big enough. My News is big enough. We actually have a show coming up on Friday, which I have to, probably start talking about more. Yeah, I know. I probably should have mentioned in the last one because this one's going to come out after the stupid show takes place. But whatever. It's all good. If you want, you can also find us. Sometimes we do live streams. We have to do this. We can't do it on Twitch because it's a little bit risque. But it's just Jesse Rand reviews art in the nude or Jesse's nude art reviews. And it's just clips of Jesse Rand looking at art and then commenting on it, but it perfectly in the nude. Let's just say that Jake Gyllenhaal has got nothing on Jesse Rand.
Super true.
Alternatively, you can reach him at Jesse, Hobolord at artmail.com.
Artmail.
Artmail, it's a new one.
You can also support Jesse's Patreon, where he builds a railroad.
In the nude.
In the nude, yeah.
But he hasn't showered in a while.
Yeah, he's just Hobo Man Jesse Rand.
Hobo Man Jesse Rand.
.com. Please check out more of our work at downinfrontpodcast.com, where you can check our video teasers, a bunch of artwork, and a lot of other stuff that we're working on and we want to talk about. If you like what we do, you actually want to kind of donate to us, patreon.com/downinfrontpodcast, which would be much appreciated. You can find us on Instagram, find us on Twitter, find us on Facebook. Just search for downinfrontpodcast.com and also we have on Reddit and Spotify, which is really awesome. So definitely go check if you want to stream. Also streaming definitely counts. So definitely check us out. We appreciate it. Thanks so much. Brylan, what is our next review?
Our next review is the Lego Movie 2, the second part.
That's the name of the movie, the second part, or just Lego Movie 2?
Lego Movie 2, the second part.
I think that'd be cool. I really loved Lego Movie 1 and Lego Batman, so should be exciting. All right.
Yep.
Good night.
Yeah, the Lego Movie was awesome.
I mean,
all monetization of art is bullshit. Find the value within yourself.